Do you want your songs to go from this to this? If you can mix, you can master. Let's dive in. The first thing that we're going to do is load our 2-track WAV file directly into our DAW. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using Reaper, but you can do this in any DAW. It does not matter. We're going to go ahead and go to the loudest section of our song. This song is Gold Star by Sentimental, and we're just going to play that section. The reason we want to start with the loudest part of our song is because we're going to be turning it up, and we want to make sure that we're not turning the loudest part up too loud. So we're going to go down here to our master bus, and we're going to add our first effect. So the first thing that I'm going to add is a multiband compressor. Any will do, but I'm going to use the Re-X Comp by Reaper. This one's actually free on the Reaper.fm website. Anybody can grab it at no cost, and it's a VST plugin, so if your DAW allows for VSTs, you can use it. I like to start with the Super Solid 2 preset, and the reason is it just kind of puts the bands where I want them, and then I can adjust them to taste. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what is a multiband compressor? Basically, it compresses frequencies, not entire wave audio files. So you're going to be compressing the low end, the low mid, the mid-high, and the high end, compressing those at different times, at different thresholds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this gain down a little bit, and we're going to make some adjustments. I'm going to compress the low end just a little bit more and release the high end from compression. The reason you don't want to over-compress your high end is because you start getting that weird tinny sound, and once you put it onto streaming platforms, that gets 10 times worse with a different kind of compression that they use. It's not the same type, but it's a kind that takes it from WAV to MP3 or FLAC or different audios like that. So you want to make sure that you're not overdoing the compression in the high end, or it's going to sound really bad once it reaches Spotify, Apple Music, etc. So I'm going to hit play and make some adjustments here. So you're going to automatically hear a little bit of boost in that low end. It's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and listen to it before and bypass, and then I'll turn it on. So you automatically hear a little bit of the low end, low mid boost. This is just like my secret sauce for the beginning of every master. Now we're going to add a little bit of EQ. And this is beginner friendly, so I'm going to try to show you some presets that you can use and make adjustments to those, because it'll just pull up the process a little bit quicker for you. This is Infinity EQ by Slate Digital, and you can start with this mastering preset called Balance. It's a good place to start. It does boost up the high end a little bit for my taste, but we can go ahead and listen through and make adjustments so that we know, oh, this is kind of where I want it instead. Now, there's a couple things you want to look at, and this can tell you whether the mix is bad to begin with, or it maybe just needs a little bit of balance. But this area right here, this 50 to 200 area, probably like 50 to 300, if you're seeing kind of a big boost in your bass up here, and then it comes down and it drops off, and it makes this huge dip here, and it comes back up, and then the EQ drops down in the high end. If you're seeing something like that, it means that your low mids and your highs probably need to come up in the mix or be more balanced in the mix before the mastering process. This area, this 50 to 300 that I was telling you about, if there's a huge dip right here, this is why your masters or your songs sound bad in your car speakers. Because what's happening is hi-fi speakers add something called color. And so it's not like your flat response headphones or your flat response speakers. It adds that extra color. And it's kind of like back in the day when we used to have boom boxes and they had that bass boost button and you click that and it just turns the bass way up. Well, a lot of hi-fi speakers have that. So what you want to do is keep an eye on that, because if that's an area of trouble in your EQ when you're visually looking at it and you go out to your car, you're going to hear that. So oftentimes in the mastering process, I will kind of move this band to just kind of boost that 1 to 200, 150 area, because it really mitigates that particular problem. So that's what I'm doing here. And then also this area here, this 2 to 3K, this is usually where the vocals sit if you have kind of a more high-end vocal. So if you want the vocals to come up a little bit in the master and just sound a little bit more clear, this band will do that there. Okay, that sounds really great. The next thing I'm going to show you is the virtual mix rack by Slate Digital. And a really cool preset for mastering that I can show you is this mix bus strip. And you can go ahead and pick mix bus 1, mix bus fast, punch, strip, whatever one that you kind of want to go for. I think this might sound good with a punch, so getting that kick to hit and that bass to hit, which is a little bit harder, or fat, which just means that it's going to make the whole thing sound really beefy and big, and that bass is really going to come through. Let's just pick that one for fun. And then on here, we have a bunch of different stuff. We have the virtual mix bus. We have a little bit of EQ. We have a little bit of air. We have this FG bomber, which I find really pushes that low end to the max. And then we have a trimmer. This trimmer will turn down our audio before sending it into our limiter if we find that our plugins are causing it to peak a little too much. So if this is hitting in the red, go ahead and use this to turn down your entire track before we put it in the limiter and turn it all up together. This will avoid any kind of clipping or over peaking. So I'm just going to hit play and we're going to mess with some of this stuff. I'm mostly going to mess with this FG bomber so I can get that bass and that low end to just kind of come up. That's already sounding really great. So I'm going to leave the trimmer alone because I'm not hitting the red, but if I was, I could make this adjustment. All right, great. We're almost done. Can you believe it? All right, the last thing that we're going to put on our chain is this limiter. And I know this thing seems kind of complicated, but don't worry, it's pretty easy to use once you get to know it. This is the FGX2 by Slate Digital. This is probably my favorite mastering limiter. It's available on All Access Pass and things like that. So there's a few cool things that we can do here. So this is the width. So what we're going to do is we're going to widen our master a little bit with this one. So I'm going to push this out probably like 5.3. I really like wide mastering. And what this does is it's compressing frequencies on the side differently than it's compressing frequencies in the middle. So all our panning choices. So it's just giving our overall master just a little bit wider. You can also use widening plugins like the S1 stereo widener or things like that to make your masters wider before going into the limiter if you don't have this one and you just want to use a regular limiter. But this is the one that I use. It's kind of an all-in-one deal. So the most important thing to pay attention to on this one in particular, or any limiter you're using, is the ceiling. So this will actually stop our master from peaking and clipping past the red when we render out our master. And that's really important because that means we can use this limiter to basically turn the song up as loud as we can without getting any kind of distortion on our render. So if you don't do the ceiling, none of this matters. That's what the limit is. I'm going to leave the low punch and the detail alone because I've already balanced that out beforehand. And then I'm going to use this to adjust my transients. I like to take them down. I don't really like everything mixing together. It's a stylistic choice. And this is where you could choose, do I want to balance my highs or prioritize my lows? I'm just going to leave that alone too because we have a really nice mix We have a really nice balance going into this thing. I don't need to do too much. So right here is our gain. This is what's going to turn up our overall volume of the song. Now, overall gain volumes are measured in LUFS, or LUFS. And then there's LUFSI, which is LUFS integrated. But Jam, I only know dB. Well, it's different. LUFS means loudness units relative to full scale. What the hell does that mean? So basically, it deals with perceived loudness. So perceived loudness is, let's say that you have a car driving by and that car is bumping that bass and you can hear that boom, 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 and you bump, bump, bump. And then you have another car next to it and the car alarm is going off and it's making this really loud, wah, wah, really, really high-pitched sounds. Those two levels could be the same decibel. They could be the same dB. Let's say it's -6. But your brain will perceive the car alarm as louder. We perceive in our brains different frequencies having different volume. So what LUFS does is it measures what is the overall perceived volume of this sound, of this song. And so that's why when we move into mastering, we deal with LUFS. Now, you want to use LUFSI, so integrated. And what that means is throughout the entire song, integrated, like the sum of all of its parts, what is it? Depending on the genre is how I determine how many LUFS I want my song to be. If it's a Americana song or something that's really pretty and it's intimate and it's sit down with an acoustic guitar, I usually like those to be anywhere from -13 to -10. It's going to be loud enough to compete on streaming services, but it's not so loud that you're going to be headbanging to it or, shaking your license plate. But if it's a EDM song, it probably needs to be at -6 LUFS or LUFSI, because that is going to be played in a club. It's going to be turned up to massive volumes, and you want all of that to kind of carry over. So it just depends on the genre. Now, people will tell you, oh, I was told that you have to master to -14 LUFS for all streaming services. That is not a thing. Don't worry about it. Every streaming service might turn it down a little bit here and there, but don't worry about that. Worry about mastering to complement the song and the genre, not what the said requirements are. The loudness wars are over, so do what's best for the song. And here's how we do it. So down here, you're going to see this LUFS, okay? So what you do is you turn up the gain until you get it to what you want. And you see short term and integrated. So that integrated is going to be through your song. So here we go. We're going to hit play and we're just going to turn up the gain. 'Cause I fell in love with a monster. She got my woman because her heart had me. Asking donuts like preguntas. And we're going to watch here and you'll see how you can tell what they are. Once you get it to one that you like, you're good to go. You can render the song now and not have to worry about peaks or things like that. Now we have that, we can go ahead and render out our song. We're good to go. Easy peasy. We've used our ears, our eyes, our brains to master a song. Now, good masters can only start with good mixes. A master is not going to save your mix. Now, let's say that you have a 2-track wave file of a song and you don't like the mix very much. And so you need to call the person who mixed it to make changes. But let's say that you don't talk to them anymore or they're not accessible to you anymore. This is where Fader comes in really handy. What you do is take your song, you go to fader.com, you click stems here, and you can upload any song that you want and it will stem it out for you. So it'll be vocals, drums, keys, guitar, and it will stem all those out so that you can take each individual section and make adjustments. It also has more stems if you do the Pro plan, so you can separate the vocals, the drums, separate the melodies, and you can down them all as high-quality WAV files with the Pro plan as well. So this is really cool if you are in the mastering phase, and let's say that the kick is too loud or you don't like the snare sound, and there's nothing you can do to change it. this is a great tool to help you stem those out so that you can make little adjustments. I did cover how to do that in one of my earlier videos, so go ahead and check that one out if you haven't seen that one yet. And now let's take a listen to Gold Star by Sentimental. We'll do before this section, we'll do before mastering, and then I'll play it after the master.
'Cause I fell in love with a monster. She broke my woman before real hard had me. Asking donuts like preguntas. Y nunca conductas respuestas. 'Cause I fell in love with a monster. She broke my woman before real hard had me. Asking donuts like preguntas. Y nunca conductas respuestas. Just like flowers sin semillas, costa. Take me over,
If you have any questions about mastering, mixing, or fader, drop them in the comments and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment. It really helps out the channel. And I'll see you next time. Happy music making!